Welcome back. This is Tuesday Lunchtime. I want to talk about the pandemic and education now. Early next year, pupils and students will return to the classroom and the lecture hall for more of the same, as teaching in South Africa has changed completely. Associate Professor Alan Cliff, the Interim Dean of the Centre for Higher Education Development at UCT, says the pandemic has accelerated the shift to online modes of teaching and learning, albeit with limitations. He's with me now on Lunchtime. Professor, good afternoon to you and welcome. In what way do you think teaching has been compromised in 2020? You talk about limitations, which I imagine also implies a lot of inequality when it comes to the methods that have been deployed.
Good afternoon, Jeremy, and good afternoon also to all the viewers. Yes, I wouldn't use the word compromised. I'd say rather that what has happened for us is that we've been moved into an accelerated mode of engagement in particular online learning. I think that what we're faced with in the new year is at minimum a blended form of learning, which therefore means that we will be having to continue in some cases. There will be no large class teaching, for example, in physical and face-to-face spaces. We will be continuing in online modes in those particular spaces. But what I mean by blended learning is that we will have to move in some cases to consider under obviously social and physical distancing conditions and protocols. We'll have to entertain in some cases performing creative arts classes, laboratory work, studio work and the like in some form of face-to-face arrangement. So to that extent, we've had to make adaptations. What I meant by acceleration was that we have moved into online learning and engaging in online learning much sooner and quicker, I guess, than we would have at a whole-scale level, full-scale level. The inequalities that I referred to in the recent interview are inequalities that have probably been in the system for a long time in higher education, but they have been amplified, I would say, by the move into online spaces. So students who have had problems with access to data, with access to online provision, have struggled even further perhaps in certain circumstances, and the gap between those who have been able to cope with online learning and those who have not been able to cope with online learning has been more stark. So we've realized very clearly that we're going to have to do a heck of a lot in relation to designing for learning that takes into account students for whom access, both physical access and online access, are not easy. We know, for example, that students from socioeconomically and educationally disadvantaged conditions are students who most need to be in spaces where there is access to online provision, and I'm calling it a sort of a campus-connected experience. So we need to move very rapidly in the new year to ensuring that students who will best benefit from being in campus-connected situations and having access to online facilities will have those facilities. I think the other point I want to make in relation to the adaptations has been that we've had to move very rapidly into understanding that learning design, teaching and learning, assessment in the blended learning space are not the same as they are perhaps in a physical space. And that has presented us, I think, with opportunities as much as it's presented us with challenges, which is why I'm saying I don't think it's so much a compromise as it is an adaptation by the sector as a whole and by our university in particular.
Well, it certainly is a blueprint for 2021. Professor, thank you very much indeed.